Hello, everyone. Good evening. Welcome to Concrete Matter Design Sharing Session, the 15th session, which is the last discourse of the season. So in the past, every 5 episodes is one season. So today it's 15, mark the 15th episode. So it's the last season of the third season. So for those who are new to the session, welcome. I hope you enjoy today's session and then feel inspired. And for those who are the usuals, you know the drill. I hope you enjoy and get brain fried today. Okay, so let me share my screen. Okay, are you guys seeing my screen? So today's sharing session with the topic of unconventional learning. The topic is inspired by the work of the both speakers, whereby we're going to talk about different ways of learning architecture, whether through the lens of researching or building physically. And also perhaps we can address about the gap between the knowledge we learn from school and also the knowledge that is applicable when we practice in the industry. And then whether this learning it's going to prepare us, future generation of the designers or architect, or actually dome us or in this soon to be obsolete market, you see. Okay, so today we are very honored to invite two speakers. The first one will be from non-school. So Mr. Ashran, Hazazi, and Bryan with their curation. Hold on, let me just admit. Okay. With their curation known as non-school, believe all of you have came across their Instagram page or Facebook page where they have claimed themselves to be a platform celebrating diversity in ways of learning and practicing architecture. So perhaps we can know more about what kind of diversity and what are the other ways of learning and practicing architecture. So on the website and the page itself currently, they are hosting these workshops curating from August to November. So each month will be led by a studio leader. In August, they have collaborated with Animali Domestici, where they are going to share a bit of insight of the work with the tutor and also the students. So this month, September, they are collaborating with Atelier Hoko, and perhaps they can share a bit more about their future upcoming workshop, which is Dua Studio and Sawin Architect in October and November. Our second speaker is Miss Wendy Teo. She is the curator and the founder of Borneo Art Collective. For I think many of you, Borneo Art Collective now it's not going to sound unfamiliar. So it's located in Kuching, Sarawak, founded in 2016, which is 4 years ago. So Borneo Art Collective has done a lot of things, including publications and also this famous Borneo Lab where they have 30 days workshop, correct me if I'm wrong, and then they'll invite participants or tutors come to the land of Borneo where they have curated and started a lot of artistic experimentations and explorations. And Wendy herself also run her own practice known as Wendy Teo Atelier, where she has started curated this installation, which is part of Rainforest Fringe Festivals, and also a lecturer herself teaching in different institutes. So for today's unconventional learning topic, we have received a few questions from the participants, from the people who signed up. So I think some of them were asking that between these two studios, they have started this very special way of learning. So how did it start? What are the stories behind? And Vic from University of Sheffield asked what are the successful outcome or the positive impact has made so far. So Anders from NUS also asked that in your opinion, are there a right or wrong way of learning and practicing architecture? So whoever, if you are in the crowd, this person who asked questions, you may ask them later. So these are other questions, whether art as an engagement tool, and questions to Wendy, whether how do you relate to Borneo architecture after spending years practicing abroad? And we'll come to all this question later. So before we start the sharing, perhaps I can refresh a bit of the format. So we will start by 30 minutes of sharing from the first speakers. So if you have any question during the sharing, you may type your question in the group chat. And then after the 30 minutes of sharing from the first speakers, we will have 30 minutes of Q&A. So during that time, you may unmute yourself and ask the question directly to the speakers, or you can continue to type in the group chat if you're very shy. All right, and then after that 30 minutes, we will have 5 minutes of intermission break, and then followed by 30 minutes of sharing from the second speakers and 30 minutes of Q&A. And then voila, that's 2 hours for you of free knowledge. All right. Let me admit the rest in. Yep. So without further ado, I would like to invite our three gentlemen, Mr. Ashran, Hazazi, and Bryan, to introduce yourself, and you may take over the floor. Thank you. Hello.
Yeah. Okay. For my start. Okay. Hello. Thank you, Joyee, and behalf of Concrete Matter, for inviting us. Non-school. So myself, my name is Hazazi, and maybe Bryan and Ash can also introduce yourself.
Yeah.
My name is Bryan, and yeah.
Ashran here, Ashran bin Bahari. Yeah.
Okay. So we are non-school. I think we can we start with the presentation. Nothing much to talk about. I think because later on we need to answer that question anyway. How? So I think okay. So for tonight's session, basically it's going to be a two-part of presentation. The first part is talking more about let's say what inspired us in terms of starting the initiative. And also the idea behind it, what are the sort of things that somehow influence us in terms of how we think, and why do we basically do what we do now basically. So I think we can start off with a critique of modern education, and basically when we talk about modern education is basically the establishment of the sort of education system that we have. So basically, it's very clear that you have school and practice. You have people who are graduated from architecture and become someone in the school, and you have people who graduate from architecture and become someone in the practice, as the kind of practice that we understand, which is in the end of the day you have to become an architect or a professional or someone in the field. And of course, we would like to highlight a little bit on the in-betweens that we call, the kind of people who are not really involved in school and in practice, although they might be practicing in some way or another, but we call it in between. So how, let's say, within all this realm, we can actually cover everything, that everyone can be involved, and everyone can see that they are practicing architecture, and at the same time they are also contribute towards the contribution of knowledge of architecture itself. Of course, I mean, like, all the discussion is started off with this reaction, and then started to become a little bit of a resistance, so-called. And then there's a lot of rethinking, a lot of time. But in the end of the day, I think most of the time it's not really about reform. It's just basically about complaining and bitching around and stuff like that. It happens a lot. But when it comes to whether what we can do about it, this is another way. Another story altogether. So if you look into education, how it started in terms of the formal modern education that we have now, it's almost, of course, this is based on this Western way of understanding it. Of course, the more Eastern way or the more informal way of education has always been there. So the idea of education is basically talking about scholars and people, surround these people. Then you normally would have like a space for it, like a very nice building or under a very nice tree and stuff like that. And then throughout history, people, keep having this idea of resistance to something and then change to something else. And for instance, this is an image from the idea of the primitive hut, where actually after the civilization goes like that, suddenly we want to go back to nature. We want to be more sustainable, eat organic food and stuff like that. So it's always that cycle that goes around and around. And then in the Western tradition, we have a lot of this kind of tradition, the Catalan tradition, British Empire tradition, and then you have the Estonian, the Bozat and whatnot. So I think what we have now in our education system is somehow a sort of mutation from this kind of very Western-centric education system. And the kind of profession and industry that we have is also based on that. We don't develop our education system from the idea of a tukang that teaches how to make buildings and stuff like that. So somehow it's no longer about that. Even though you say that it's the vernacular architecture, but you somehow still try to conform towards a certain standard of how things are being done. So both in practice and also in education. So if you look into our own tradition, it's basically different, like I mentioned just now. We might have different way of talking about building and architecture. We don't have the term architecture. We have bangunan, binaan, and stuff like that. But we don't really call it architecture as a form of knowledge or profession. But of course, there are some scriptures actually talking about ways to build a house, certain rituals and stuff like that. But I don't think even in the public architecture school, you really learn building to using that particular method. It's just something for you to know about. And all the research about, let's say, the heritage building and stuff like that has always been about documenting it. And I don't really think it's more about the historical part of it, but more of the, not even preserving, but just to document, let's say, what we already had before. And if you look into the tradition of the West, they have a lot of this, kind of thinking and rethinking, and new ways, old ways, and stuff like that. So Futumas is basically a Bauhaus version of the from Russia, basically. And of course, it's also against not as an alternative way of discussing design and architecture composition rather than the traditional Beaux-Arts way. And then let's say in terms of practice also, we see that the establishment of the office, the kind of office that we have now from the early modernists, is still the same. Let's say you do a different kind of building, but at the same time, the way that you practice is basically the same. It's just you change in terms of the way that you compose. You don't really believe in imitating ornaments and stuff like that. You do modern lines, but in the end, it's still about drafting out. You have a certain client project and stuff like that. And because of that, towards the history of modern architecture, we have probably in Siam, and the story that, and then you have Team 10 and stuff like that, trying to find new ways and to show a little bit of resistance towards something, even though like all these modern architects, the great modern architects, like certain limitation, probably there's certain things mentioned by all these great modernist architects, also something that is unacceptable or irrelevant for that time. And then we can talk a little bit more about democracy and autonomy in education. Okay, for even from part of Team 10, we have people like De Carlo who really involved in this so-called creative anti-institutionalism, and then and then also being involved in all the student union and stuff like that. Of course, let's say in Malaysia especially, we don't really have that as a very mainstream way of looking into education or even architecture. So if let's say, I think somewhere in the 60s, of course, this movement of anti-establishment and stuff like that. So we have anti-University of London, for instance, and then even before that we have non-École de Villefranche, which means non-school as well. So basically, it inspired us to talk about something. Oh, it's cool that you have non-École or non-school. So this is actually an initiative by from the art fluxus movement. So people like Robert Philo, and then you have Shadrach Woods who hang out with them, and then start this idea of thing. But I don't think it really goes towards the direction of like a very sustainable way of rejecting the or a form of resistance toward the formal institutions. But you know, it started off with something, but it's just there. If you find also it's not much in terms of the outcome, but it's good to know that it started off with something. And then if you read into Sherlock Wood as well, he wrote quite a lot in terms of the idea of education. Of course, it is actually about building institutional design. If you see one of his work with collaboration with Joyee Lee, and it basically is about to design the Free Berlin University. So while designing that, he has a lot of this idea about this education bazaar, school without walls and stuff like that, and student-centered learning. It's basically another form of, if let's say you go into an education line, it's basically some references on student-centered learning. However, in terms of the interpretation of student-centered learning, is very, you know, very different and very robust in a way that, for instance, this is a screen capture from a movie, basically called Accepted, talking about, you know, the idea of you did not get accepted to a university, and then somehow you create your own university by creating a very convincing website, and suddenly people start to enroll into the university, and so you have to create your own university and to start this curriculum, and then you just have like this huge board, and then, you know, okay, what do you want to learn, stuff like that, although it's just free. But okay, and then you see this hello, can you hear me? Okay. And then you have this modern culture or current culture of this Netflix, Uber, Grab, and stuff like that, which is all this idea of you are in control of what you want. I want to watch this, then I can control when I want to watch it, rather than the traditional TV that you have to, you know, wait for the intisari rancangan this time and that time, and then you have to record and stuff like that. So now you are in control. But the problem is that when you are in control, probably you need time to, you know, you are in the role of people who really need to make that intisari rancangan. So, you know, after a long day of work, then suddenly at home, although you have the algorithm and stuff, but selecting the movies and series also is taking your time as well. So in the end, you don't watch it. Or you just, I just click whatever that appears. So, you know, at first probably it's nice to curate and stuff like that, but suddenly your nieces or nephew came and then they want to watch cartoon and whatnot, that open your account, and you know, then that it mess up all your curated content. Okay, then the third part was talking about this idea of romanticism, utopia, and the everyday. Why this is important? Because this is, of course, from the theory of Lefebvre, Henry Lefebvre. So basically, why we highlighted this is because I think the way that we are now, or the situation that we have now, is basically because we focus too much on the everyday, which is, let's say you talk about in the industry, whatever the industry that we have now, whatever situation, the architecture industry or the world or the political system, the economic system, whatever, is based on a certain utopia of people from the past. And if you romanticize something, it's just about, you know, romanticize a certain thing for you to learn a lesson, or most of the time it's not really to learn from the mistakes or whatnot, but, you know, for you to know, or for you to romanticize, basically. Let's say the Western civilization always romanticize about the greatness of the Greek civilization or Roman civilization, stuff like that. And if you look into, let's say, a country like Malaysia, for instance, you know, majority Muslim, majority, but then you need like a certain identity to romanticize, let's say, the gloriness of the Islamic Empire, for instance. So you need this kind of romanticism towards your past or history to build up your confidence towards you as a nation, you as a or as a profession or as a company or whatever. So I think, let's see, later on, of course, it's going to be a long discussion about, you know, the practice or the education system that we have now and blah blah blah. But whatever that we have now is basically, like I said, is the utopia of people from the past. So if we start to always talk about the everyday, how to maintain the status quo, we will never progress. We will never achieve our wawasan 20 30 or wawasan 2050 or whatever. No, we are already 2020 and we're still talking about this because we are following people, we are following the West, we are following dasar pandang ke timur and stuff like that, but we don't really look into ourselves and try to lead how we want to okay, I hope I'm too long. So in the end, it's this lack of critical discourse that leads us towards having this kind of idea of maybe we need a certain platform that move away from the traditional or the conventional system. And then, like I mentioned, the school practice and in between, these are the people who are inside it. And more, let's say have architects, designers. Of course, I have to put this as architects, people who are registered as Part 3. I can't call myself as an architect. And then you have designers, but designers also, we have certain categories. So certain people call themselves a designer because I'm a design architect in the office, but for some designers, that would be like an insult. Let's say, you are not a designer, but you call yourself a designer, stuff like that. And then you have lecturers, and then you have graduates. I think I would just call myself as a graduate, maybe easier. And then you have students. So you see, all this becomes this, architect, professionals, designers as consultants, lecturers, academicians, graduate workforces. So this is like the 80% of the of the people in the industry, and then you have students as interns. Of course, whatever that we have now in terms of the survival is talking about producing more architects. We have then, because to produce more architects, we need more schools. And we have all this KPI. We need, how many architects per capita, blah, blah, blah. We need, development in every state, every corner of the earth. But rather, if let's say we talk about maybe what we need is basically more good ideas, more interesting platforms. And rather than architecture just to produce building, but it's about more projects, more things that architects or people who learn a certain form of knowledge in architecture can make, like a certain project or work in a certain project. And of course, we discuss about this a lot. We have why not, let's say, writing, drawings, building, innovation, critics, whatever that we can do within the knowledge that we know as someone who graduated as an architect, to turn it into a very interesting project for more people to get involved and stuff like that. And in the end, it's really about us becoming intellectuals rather than just intelligentsia, because I refer to the book by a very famous Malaysian scholar, Syed Hussein Alatas. He said he was actually born in Indonesia but become Malaysian. His very interesting or famous book, which is Intellectuals in Developing Societies, talking about why we are in the state that we are now, because we are just a developing country and we never reach, let's say, an advanced country. If let's say we're just talking and we don't have enough intellectuals. We might have a lot of intelligentsia, which is, people who professionals, like you say, we have a lot of this guy have PhD, this one have like AR, DR, PS, whatever, right? So we have that all the things in front of your name. And to really justify yourself as a professional, as a very important person, stuff like that. But are you an intellectual or not? Are you open for an intellectual discourse? Are you, ready for that? Okay. Without, that discussion, we won't be, an advanced country. We just be following people. And end up the first part by looking at this, because this is the cover of the UIA International Magazine, International Architecture Magazine, which is the PAM of the world or something like that. The international PAM lamp or whatever. In that particular issue in 1984, it discussed about Malaysian architecture, vernacular, pastiche, modern, the search for Malaysian architecture. And inside that particular issue, it talks about a lot of this Malaysian architect. There's Jimmy Lim's work inside there. Ken Yang wrote something inside there and stuff like that. And I think from there on, I think at that point, we are, somehow people are looking at us whether we are something to look at. And after that, probably not. Maybe Ken Yang did something, talking about green architecture and whatnot, but now it becomes like greenwashing and stuff like that. You know, you started off with something, but yeah, it doesn't really. And until now, we still talk about this Malaysian architecture as, you know, identity. And the discussion is that whether the identity should be, you know, belongs to a certain race, to a certain homogeneous identity, more democratic identity and whatnot. Okay. So I think for the second part, probably it's more about the alternative education system, question mark, whether we are really heading towards that. Probably Bryan would like to continue this one, or
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, I think, yeah, you can continue with this one first.
Okay. So basically, the first part is basically you know, the inspiration and what we talk about. Second part is what we have done and what we plan to do. You know, so we started off somehow with format. I think some of the format members are also inside this forum. We have and of course the idea of format is to, if you refer to the earlier Team 10 photos, like very gloomy, I don't really see the faces, so we did like another version of it. So I don't know, intentionally or unintentionally. So the idea is that to have this platform that is very so-called mysterious or I don't know, no, I'm not sure. But the idea is that, you know, you don't really need the crowd and stuff like that. You just do what you want to do. That is probably different, and to talk more serious stuff and stuff like that. And of course we did some session that was attended by probably 5 people. Of course, like physical ones. Maybe at that time, if you start to use Zoom, maybe we have more. Of course, we discuss about things as silly as the logistics of, can we fit more than 5 people in the session and stuff like that. So the left one is the first session that we had, which is called Wish You Were Here. Of course, we play around with some rock and roll song titles for the of course, the first session was a sharing by Azlan Kasroh and ourselves also at the time, the Studio Karya. It's a very informal session, but you know, we thought there's another way or another format altogether to talk about architecture. And then the right one is actually the last one that we had, which is the day after the revolution, a sharing session by Nurul Azrin, talking about, you know, at that time it's 2018 in September. I think it's like a few months after the election. That probably we thought that's going to change Malaysia or whatever, right? But again, like, the discussion was that the day after the revolution, you know, talking about even in Malaysia, it's not really a revolution, but you know, the change that we talk about, probably to change itself is quite, it's not really the hardest part lah, but probably, you know, after you change, then what, you know, what do you need to change, you know, what is, you know, needed in the future and stuff like that. So after that, we don't have you know, any more sessions, but we still keep in touch with each other, and I think it has formed somehow being reformatted into another platform, I would say. And then even before that, we have some initiative called Network that we start to talk about some other practices. Of course, like format, and this one is not really touching on the education part, but more on the practice part. So we get some other people from the region to share their you know, works and stuff like that. And then we went to Singapore for competition, like Singapore Founders Memorial Competition. We participated in that one and lose with style. And then, of course, while visiting, you know, you have this view of Singapore. Of course, a bit of a critique towards and we see that, you know, the idea of architecture that surrounds us is always about trying to become this star architect. I mean, like in first year project, second year project, you always, you know, dream about, you know, having that very interesting structure, you know, to explore. But then in reality, it's not really like that, right? And we start to scribble around some notes and ugly sketches to start something, and then it becomes non-school. Probably Ryan would need to continue from here.
Okay, I think all of you managed to capture the intentions and where we are from. And the non-school was started is basically is a platform. So the intention is simple, is that it's not trying to say providing an alternative, but perhaps it's nothing that you could learn. Perhaps it's from here. It's more likely to assist you in searching about the maybe if you want to call it alternative or another approach. Besides that, there's no other ways that we could offer. So that is the most basic thing that I think simple. It's nothing that is complicated. Next. So the program is basically is doing it online currently because there's the right time, right moment, and then with the right people as well. So called the right time is because it's the COVID happens. Our original idea is to conduct is physicals, which is we talk about the interaction between people and all this. But the COVID issues make us to go online and then create this borderless opportunity that we could reach out to more further regional and international participants and the workshops leaders as well. So the workshop, how it runs is we divide it into 4 months, from August running until to November. And then each of the months, there will be different workshop leaders that is running the workshop. And each of the workshop that we kept it for about maximum 12 participants. And I think these things you could check it from our website as well. And basically every month, every weekend, there will be lectures, and then also there will be a workshop running concurrently. And instead of working it for full days, so we divide it into every Saturdays, there's run 2 to 3 hours. So if let's say a month, there's 4 weekends, then which means 8 hours in a way. So we have, this year, we have a workshop leader that is by this workshop leader from Bangkok. Their original origin is from Italy. And they are called Animali Domestici. And they are doing quite an interesting works that basically they taught their teachings in India. I believe Wendy also know them as well, personally. So, and we have Atelier Hoko from Singapore. So they are not architect, but they are interesting because they are a designer that is probably also interested in spatial. They did something that is doing a mapping about cats within the context of urban environment. And then they have a series of studies of science of secondary, study about toilet roll, apple, bananas, and so on and so forth. And we have this also a young architect from Indonesia, Dua Studio, young but interesting individual entities, practices. That is that we see that is architects doesn't limit to the age of any ages. You could be in a very early age to a very 50 or 60. There's no limitations. So if you have the ideas, if you have the gut feeling, and then if you are daring enough, you could be successful, which that is the intention that we would like to draw all these references for everybody to not just talk about inspirations, but also in terms of working together and see how to learn from them and work it out your own way as well. And lastly, Saoyin architect, which is perhaps emerging and also is a very interesting individual that practice in Malaysia, and not really just architecture, but also he did some exhibitions and so on. So what we are selecting and curating and all these so-called practices, maybe some of you know, and perhaps a lot people also might not aware about them as well, especially to the students. Our reason of to show the works, like for example, the Alimali, you see, this is a work that they've done is basically is a mapping study about the context of Bangkok, which is there's a lot of these snakes that is living in Bangkok that very surprisingly that throughout their their finding is like, and there's a lot of these animals that is like called living with us as well. And their interest is like to map it out and to study about it. Next. And the first workshop is we have a receive of their quite a lot of the lectures. We receive quite a lot of attendance as well, and also their first workshop that running next, which they are study about animals, insects. That's from the student or the participant's house, or they are living. So basically, this one is a study for opinions of these participants. In the background is he is from New York. Then they are trying to study about animal. What interesting is we find that it's like we always talk about architecture interaction between human and space and all this thing. But we almost forgot about there's another part of it, which is like the animals that are probably living together with us as well. And we find that it's like there are projections of architecture's protagonists from humans to the animals, insect, which is something that is like we rarely talk about in school perhaps. And I believe that the participants is like throughout the workshop they managed to learn something to map out about the habitat of the animals or insects, and then after that they project it into some sort of maybe it's like statements that they would like to share. Next. So in the end of the workshop, they make some virtual study and virtual reality environments and run through this, which is like between how do you use about technology, and also it's like bridging the gap from a manual to a technology, and then how do you study about architectures, not just building. And next one, in currently we have this workshop leader called Atelier Hoko. So, and they are running this architecture, not architecture, so-called maybe more spatial. There are investigations about, it's like research about Zoom within a Zoom, which is like currently you are in Zoom and I'm in Zoom, and that Zoom within a Zoom, what is the impact? And what they did today, because today is the first sessions, they're basically asking about all these individual participants to walk around all these unidentified spaces, and maybe it's not inspiring and not occupying spaces, and move around their own spaces. In a way that as an observer from the screen, suddenly we can see that it's like the people are moving constantly at the same time. And also you can see that it's like there's a lot of interesting how the people are trying to project themselves within the screen so that they look good, and also sharing their background or their spaces and how cluttered is the spaces as well. So, and we don't know what is the outcome, but it's something that the leader trying to research together with the participants. Perhaps we will share maybe the result throughout the end of the workshop later on.
Yeah, there's a reason why my background is so dark.
Okay. And the next one on the October, we will have Dua Studio. And I would say that Dua Studio is young, but they are the one that is got the very much attention by any context.
Do you mind if I ask young is how young?
Young is there's no age limit. I mean, okay. I couldn't tell because it's like so. Okay. They are running their workshop, and so we will have their lectures next week, and Saturday. So feel free to subscribe and join in. It's free. Then their workshop is on October itself, and after that November is Sawin. Just keep an eye on our website and our Instagram. I think that's all for our presentation. And thank you very much for the opportunity.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you for the sharing. I think we can start out with some questions. So far it has been just workshop. So I mean the 4 workshops that you mentioned earlier, and then one is ongoing with Atelier Hoko. So yeah. May I ask, what is the greater, as in like, Is it going to be just workshop, or is there a greater vision behind on school? What's the future planning for on school?
We don't have plans, you know. No. Of course, the idea is at first, before we call ourselves non-school, we have like a couple of interesting names, like say like the platform, or like the non-formal or whatever lah. So there's a lot of other names, and it's because we were thinking of what it should be, you know. In one of the discussion that so we really want to be like this non-school school, meaning like this website that people can learn something from it, or is it just a platform that you are more like a curator and you curate things? Of course, we have a lot of other things in mind. Let's say things like exhibition or publication and stuff like that lah. But of course, for now, it's non-school. We have workshop and lectures, and of course, like lectures, like everyone do lectures as well. I think workshop, I think is quite fresh, and I think to do an online workshop that people can participate from all around the world, and you can get access for people not just within the region, and you can save like some unnecessary cost of like flight tickets and fancy 5-star hotels, and some wagyu beef dinner and stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
So so that you can have sponsor money and use it for publication or to pay us, you know. So of course we will still as it goes, we see how we not the kind of plan too much, I think we just plan for the workshop first, and then see how people respond to it, and I think of course what we had in mind is basically from the references is whatnot is I think we want this to be like, or not just this particular platform, I want other platform as well, but probably when you have a lot of platforms, then somehow that platform is becoming the new school, the new school. It's not just to say that we are non-school, we say that people would choose to learn from, or maybe in the end people can learn more from the non-formal institutions, or non-institutions. Like for instance, you go to school, let's say your primary school, secondary school, and then you go to tuition classes as well. What can't you get from school that you need to attend like another tuition? So those are the kind of things probably in school. Of course, it's also because of this frustration. Let's say you are a young lecturer or this ambitious lecturer that want to try a lot of things, but then in this formal school you are regulated by certain things, and you don't want to jeopardize yourself, trying to be so adventurous, and and then people would say, oh, this is not comply to LAM requirement and stuff like that. So forget about the school, you just do whatever that they want you to do, and then if you want to do other things, then we do it here. No one would regulate us for now, at least. I don't know, maybe after this we need to regulate as well, I don't know. But
I see.
yeah.
So it's more like how do you say, like the Banksy way of like learning
Yeah.
you're providing a platform for this, I don't know, like outlaw kind of learning kind.
Yeah, because revolution will never happen, and then you do something else. You do you follow the thing. Practice also same lah. You need to practice the same. You cannot call yourself an architect, but never mind. Maybe I can create like another suffix in front, like say like instead of AR, I call myself NAR, like non-architect, something like that. Then I can call, hey, NAR Bryan, hi, NAR Ashran, that kind of thing. So that attitude of not trying not to just fight the system, always fight the system. Let the system be the system. Let people who really loves the system to be with the system, and and we can just be us and talk to people like us.
Yeah, I think that is a very admirable kind of culture, as in like we can try to cultivate, but at the end of the day we have to sustain ourselves in a sense, right? So how do we convince like client to accept this part of the new skill set that we have learned? Let's say for example Atelier Hoko, then we learn all this very niche research. I think they are very interesting. And then how do that related back to our practice?
I don't know, because like for instance, we had a session with Akihoko. Alvin himself is not an architect. So he teaches part-time teaching. In one school he teach fine art. In another school he teach graphic design, and in another college or polytechnic he teaches architecture in first year studio. And then that shows that you don't need to be like a fine artist to teach fine art. You don't need to graduate as a graphic designer to teach graphic design. As long as there's something that you can share as a form of knowledge, and at a certain level of that particular education, you can share something and student can understand and relate to that. You are a teacher, Of course, we ask question. Oh, so you can teach architecture? You're not an architect? Yeah. Oh, I don't know. They never asked us. Maybe they thought I'm an architect. The kind of thing.
The title doesn't matter.
So it doesn't matter as long as okay. Okay. I teach part time. I have some funny stuff that I do. For probably not paying me. My teaching gig are paying me. So yeah, I just do what I want to do. So that's why we can do like, for instance, that research, like they already have like a box set of 10 books, very interesting research. So we ask them for that particular series of 10 books, he spent like 7 years to do that. I mean, like, and that is not paying. So it's just paying for the particular, I would say, project. It's not really, you can get a salary out of that by selling the books. So, yeah, I mean, like the future is going to be like that probably. I don't know. We have to adapt to it or what. I don't know, like Bryan, Ash, whether they have anything else to.
Yeah, anything Bryan or Ash want to add to before?
I think Ash maybe want to add something.
Or maybe later.
Why so formal today? I suddenly feel today very formal. Yeah.
No, we had a long day. We had a long day.
Yeah, everyone has a long day. It's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, we do have 2 questions from the group chat, so we can look at it. So I think Clarissa asked, what is non-school role when the workshop leader is guiding the lecture and tutorial series? Would you work with the workshop leader to develop this brief? Also, how does one establish this discourse and thus maintain rigor within the workshop? Choice of workshop leader, whether were this practice chosen?
Yeah.
Or maybe I can answer that.
Okay. Silakan, Ashran.
Yeah, terima kasih. Okay.
NAR Ashran.
NAR.
Okay. What was the question?
It's in the group chat.
Our role.
Our role. Yeah.
This is Clarissa.
Hi.
Yeah. Right. So we 3 of us is the organizer. Yeah, a team of 3, and then we discuss who is the potential speakers or leaders. At first, we Ling Hao, BC already agreed with the physical workshop.
Ling Hao from Singapore, is it?
Yeah, Ling Hao.
Okay.
Already agreed with the physical workshop, but because of the COVID, they sort of not to
the travel is
travel
difficult.
to cross the borders and everything. And BC, even though he's in PJ, maybe it's a Zoom thing, I guess. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe he's old as well, so maybe he needs some time to familiar with the Zoom. I'm not sure about that. How we choose the speakers and the leaders, I think is very basic. First, maybe it's within our networks, who we know, and secondly, maybe by recommendation. So I guess we started with our networks, who we know. So because that is the easiest way to start. I guess the motivation here is to start with at least the people with we thought that doing very interesting jobs, interesting practice as well, and that's why we ended up with Nimali, Dua, Hoko, and Sao In. So yeah, so that's it. And I think most of them are teaching as well. So maybe that's the very first connection, I guess. Dua, Sauin, Animali, and Huko, they all teaching as well. And we teach part-time as well. So, yeah. And okay, sorry. Regarding the, I mean the leader, we give the freedom to the leader and to design their own brief. And they come up with their own learning outcome as well. And we had a few sessions. I mean, they updated us with the brief, and we discussed, and then maybe we try to improve the brief and sort of thing. But I think mostly we give the freedom to them to design the module. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I guess I also want to add a little bit more and ask about like the rigor of the quality of the work that you expect from this workshop, for example. How do you kind of maintain the kind of established discourse and thus maintain rigor throughout these kinds of workshops?
I think I can answer that. So the rigor of the outcome is something that is, to be honest, we cannot control, and we also know how to expect. So what we are trying to also to facilitate here is that instead of talking about critical discourse, we also trying to generalize it into a much more public discourse. So the outcome maybe is not that so important. For example, the work of the Banksy is not so important. Maybe it's a pleasure, and maybe it's his own way of expressing himself. But slowly people appreciate, and then become like a statement. That is something that we would like to see how it goes. Yeah, so there's no like KPI, there's nothing that we could track and all these things. So that's why we make it even like the brief for the participants, the leader, is everything could be very simple, you propose.
Yeah, I think it's not about the outcome, it's about the exploration. Because
I'm also asking about the maintenance of kind of conversation and kind of the kind of method that you're trying to.
If you're talking about the outcome, I think it's no different with the normal school.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, it's about the exploration, I guess.
The outcome is published somewhere else, like after the workshop?
We plan to publish the outcome, I mean the overall session. And we plan to have like, I mean, interviews as well as mostly interviews and the outcome in a publication that we will distribute free, I mean, to the participants. And maybe if you guys want to buy it, yeah, it's yeah.
Yep, looking forward.
Because we're not bounded by accreditation, so there's, I mean,
Can I just, sorry.
Yeah,
I just want to add on to what what Bryan answered just now. Just curious, who are most of the participants in the two workshops right now, mostly from architectural background? Because you mentioned about opening up this discourse to public. I'm just curious as to who are the people that has applied for the workshops.
Generally the way how we create, of course, is all of us from architecture background. So not saying architect would be attracted in the program, but perhaps designer. In generally, we have participants from majority, like 50% from architecture background, but another 50% perhaps is like various, maybe it's a designer subject. Like for example, depends also the leader as well. For example, Hoko workshop, they have an industrial designer. But of course, it's like when you have Alimani, Thomas, TC, majority is like architects, but also got one is like from agricultural background as well. And some people are doing curatorial as well. So that is something that we also surprised when we are seeing all these interesting people who are submitting their applications.
So when these people with different backgrounds are submitting their application, do you guys go on like an interview? Like, did you ask them like, what do they aim to get from this workshop?
we are not doing that. Perhaps what we are probably just looking through their portfolio and think perhaps if we could, then we will select the best candidate for the with the leaders to enroll. Yeah, so far we would like to encourage the more the better to come in. So that is like, it's nothing that is an elite school or something like that.
What's your selection criteria?
Yeah, I'm curious about that as well.
Our selection criteria is no criteria.
So, because at first we thought that, let's say, one leader, the application, let's say, up to 50, but actually it's not. It's just 16 to 20. But at the end of the day, like Animali, the students, I mean, the participated students are just 16. The application is 20 something, if I'm not mistaken. But at the end of the day, the one who pays is only 16 people. So yeah, that's it. So the point of submitting the portfolio, at first we thought that we can selectively select the applicants, because some of the leaders, they might need extra or maybe special tools to teach. So that's why, I mean, that's the initial idea.
Oh.
But end up, I mean, we just choose whatever, I mean, whoever applied for the whichever leader.
I see. So at the end, there's no limit on the number of participants.
Yes,
there is the limit.
There is the
because
limit,
it's online. You cannot the workshop leader cannot handle, and they do know these persons as well. So that's why that 12 is the maximum. That is initially we set it, but of course throughout the workshop we also discuss with the leader that is what is the maximum capacity you can handle. So far this Alimali and Hoko, and they are agree with 16 they can handle, which means if they divide into group, 4 people in a group, then there are 4 groups, which makes sense in a way. So if let's say if we would like to enroll like 25 people for them to run the workshop, perhaps it's a bit challenging in terms of managing it within the 2 to 3 hour sessions.
I see.
Yeah,
I see. But if this were to conduct in a physical workshop, will the number of participants increase or decrease?
Subject to the venue.
Okay.
It's almost like running a studio in the school.
Yeah, it's all like running a studio. Okay, thank you. Hope they answer the question, Carissa and Nicholas. So I think Joyee has a question as well. So there's Jomin and Yvonne. So Joyee asks, Joyee, are you there? Do you want to ask? Okay, I'll ask on behalf of you. For the idea of external tuition classes, I don't think everyone has an equal opportunity to attend. For one barely can afford to attend school, how they can see this as an extension? What if the tuition classes proliferated and this could be an extra burden to the students, right? Anyone from long school want to take on that?
Ash, you want to answer that?
Extra burden? What do you mean by extra burden to the
But it's just 60 ringgit for the workshop.
Okay, sorry, I'm back, sorry.
Yeah.
What I mean, right, is like, I think I'm just like, this is just a question, because many years back then, where I think our father's days, I think school has played important to provide a quality education, right? And then after many years later, until my generations, where the school quality start to drop, right? Then you have tuition centers opening of tuition centers, and then it becomes a sort of a kind of economy, right? And then all of us who went to school have to take this tuition class as a sort of extension from the school itself, because the school is not providing the quality, right? So and my worry is because when having these tuition classes, what I see, right, it's not actually helping to fix the real issue that we're facing now overall in this Malaysia education system, right? But it's more like it might be turned out to be another Achilles heels to actually make it more worse, and also stifling the majority of people who are actually interested to participate in this sort of designer discipline, right? Because once they heard that, oh, going to school is bad because I'm just taking the certificate, but the school are not teaching anything, and we have to go to tuition center. So we have Archi Tuition Center, right, for instance, Design Tuition Center, and then you have to pay an extra like 200 ringgit per month, for instance. Yeah, if that situation proliferated, right, and then would it be an extra burden to a student, you know, because not everyone is in the middle class who actually in the school. Some some actually have loans to get into school. I have friends like that. Yeah. So I wonder like if the idea of being a tuition class is a healthy one or a healthy one for just now, or is planning to be a longevity of this ideal tuition class should be there. Yeah. Because if you compare to UK schools, right, we sort of we have sort of schools that actually provide a certain quality of education, and the outside, right, is our own free time that you participate, right? But if this tuition center becomes a norm that you have to go through, right, it would be another burden, you see. Yeah. Is this going to address the real issues that we are facing right now? The overall systems that that stop us, not stop us, but like stifling us from doing extra stuff. Yeah, this is my
I
Sorry,
think
Joey, before you answer, before anyone answer, I just want to tell Joey, right, Joey, it's not your generation, because you're only like what, 20 something years old. The tuition center started way longer. It's plus almost 40 plus years now.
Yeah, but it become very big thing
It
during
was
my
huge
generation.
back then
It become
also
IPO,
as well.
you know, like public listed companies.
So I'm just saying that it didn't start in your generation. It started way before. And in that during my time, you know, 40 plus years ago, you have to go to tuition centers in order to get sample exams for SPMs. That's how you get sort of to get by or pass.
To get the tips and etc.
Yeah, I mean, I also went through the process, but it's not everyone.
But I'm just saying that, you know, historically that has been not just because when you say your generation, it's like you meaning like you're talking about very recent, but it actually hasn't been a very recent thing.
So you're already old, Nicholas, is it?
I just want to make sure that he knows that, you know,
let's just start a war, man. Let's just start a war.
Asturias era. It was like one of the biggest.
I think I pretty much get the intention of the question and also comment. Okay, so I think you give an analogy. I think why people now live in this gated and guarded community, right?
Yeah.
Where you already have the police, you know, you have why you need to hire okay, for instance, all the new housing development, most of it would sell that as a package, as something, a feature, you know, whether you are living in a gated guarded community or it's going to be safe, you know, double layers security and whatnot. But of course, it's true as well. There are some areas that is, you know, really problematic in terms of the crime issue, where people breaking into houses and stuff like that. People don't feel safe anymore. Okay, so of course, I think these things happen because you can't really trust the establishment already. So if let's say police, so police can't do that anymore. You know, it's either something wrong, someone, you know, do corruption or whatnot because they are not doing the job or whatnot. Then because of that, you find your own solution. So for those who can afford, of course, you like, let's say you stay in a condominium with fancy security and stuff like that. Or if let's say you stay in an old housing area somewhere in Taman, whatever, and then you set up your own security system. You sponsor everyone to pay, you know, the monthly, you know. So those are the kind of, and then it becomes a business. I always thought also, I said probably it's a scam. You know, you just pay some seller to just rob one house, and then suddenly you can get like a contract of like
insurance. You get insurance from that.
Yeah, but the point is that about burden and whatnot. So if let's say these are not the somehow the vaccine that can can cure all these problems.
Yeah.
Yeah, probably I can agree on that. Maybe not. So we as talking as tuition centers, we see that that basically is as a form of format that is, you don't have, you still have like your formal school, but if you want to have extra, you do. So but having said that, I think no, because it's tiring in terms of you want to change the system, you want to change this, you want to change that, and it never happened because there's a lot of this hurdle in front of us. And then in the faculty meeting or whatever, then start debate, and suddenly people would. I'm a part-time lecturer. Probably people won't hire me anymore if, let's say, I just go into faculty. We have to change this, we have to say that, So okay, never mind. In school, it's just okay. I'm a very good, part-time lecturer. I follow the syllabus and whatnot. Make sure that you draw your fire staircases and blah blah blah. However, probably there's something in terms of the approach that I might want to push, or I might want to focus on and stuff like that. But suddenly, my studio, I want to do this, political whatever unit agenda, blah blah blah. Probably that's not going to happen. Or probably okay. You can be very critical about the social blah blah blah. Okay, so but in the end of the day, you can propose not to build anything for this particular semester 4 project in Taylor. So probably that's not going to happen. And because that, and then people would start to criticize. So I think the situation in some advanced country like Europe and whatnot, they already gone through that, and they also have the kind of school that produce architects. There are different kind of school that probably look into different kind of things. There are some school that leads. There's other schools that just want people to enroll into their program and produce more architects. So yeah, it's like that. So I think talking about this as, let's say you want to call it as a tuition class, it might be not the solution, but you can start something. I mean, like if let's say we have like 15 so-called platform that have a lot of this kind of thing, and I think we start to discuss about all these different agenda and things that we never talk about. Let's say I think like maybe we don't really talk about animals, living together with us before, probably now. Then probably we start to influence very subtly for all the students, whoever, suddenly they start to produce the kind of work that will be more sensitive towards that in the school, and you will change the school that way. So I believe, and like for us, that is something that we can do. So better for us to try to do something that we can do rather than we try to change something that we require the change of someone up there and blah blah blah. We've been through like changing the prime minister, and look where we are now. So to keep optimistic about it is one thing, and try to do something. And I think it's good that we have this kind of platform that we start to talk to each other rather than just in our mama session and just talking to like 3 or 4 of us. So I think I hope it answers it.
Perhaps Junming want to add something, because I think she tapped something, right? Junming, are you online?
I joined the workshop actually, so I already typed my reply at the group chat. But basically, I think it's a very good experience for me. I mean, it gives me a chance to look at how the others design concurrently, and since it's conducted online, right, it's different from physically where we draw everything on the sketchbook and we cannot look at our peers' progress. But since everything is very open online on the Miro platform, right, we can just zoom into detail what the others are doing, and then it's very interesting to see how students or professionals from other countries, how they are actually approaching design. The outcome is also very fresh. It's very different from the usual design approach that I was taught in the school. So, and one thing I really like about this workshop is it actually it's maybe not a good thing to say, but it actually it doesn't expect you to do a very complex design. You can just take a very little study on this. My friend did a dragonfly study, So she just studied the dragonflies and then, have fun going to the garden every day and look at dragonflies. I went to the garden and look at the moth, try to find insects in my garden, which I would not have done, throughout my education in architecture. I mean the institutional architecture.
Sorry, may I ask, you're from, you're still studying now?
I'm from UTM.
Oh,
yeah, I'm
UTM.
still studying.
Yeah, I'm from UTM
Yeah, I'm
too.
from UTM.
Many,
Hi,
not so
senior.
many years, not so many years ago.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, it's very interesting, the whole process. Yeah, I wouldn't say that I produce very good work, but I find that I learn a lot, and I'm very happy knowing that there are this group of people that are like design as a hobby. You really enjoy and love the act of design, which is something that we may have lost throughout the education process. So yeah.
I can feel your happiness. So I think it's a good thing. I can suddenly feel joy already. Sorry, Bryan, you want to add something?
I would like to say that instead of teaching class, perhaps it's an enrichment program, because a teaching class is something that is paid by the parents to force the children to go there to learn, to expect to achieve an excellent outcome. So that is the teaching class ideas. But what we are doing is probably more likely, we make it a more layman word when we talk about that, when we are coin that words as well, because it's sometimes we talk to different people, we have to use that, and then indirectly it become like a words that we use it. But if you would like to be specific, it's probably enrichment program, because something that you think you will get something, or you're interested, it's personal, then you subscribe and learn it. That is something that is more specific. The other thing is I interested also, I think, is that the world is not perfect. It's almost like a globe. It's like there's a say that if you would like to change the world, or any organizations, go into the system. The only best way is go into the system to change it. But however, once you go into the system, indirectly, sometimes the system change you, then you become the corrupted person. So if you do want to go into the system, you go outside and set up your own system. When you set up that own system, indirectly one day, you will become this system that another person will come and trying to reform, resist you. That is something that is a non-school, perhaps it's not the perfect ideal example. And we wish that the more we do this, it's also is like an effect to it, that it could be affect others to do it. If they got a better model that can come and maybe to propose something, then the world will be getting improved and improved. What we are doing non-school here, because we find that there's something system is not right, we propose this. Then so that you got an alternative. If somebody have something that against us is not good, feel free to come up with a solution. Then we are moving on as a nation, as our professions as well.
Yeah.
Thank you, Bryan, for the explanation.
I think I want to add another thing that I really appreciate about the non-school platform is that it embraces slower learners. It embraces the beginners, those who doesn't really know what to do. Those are not being exposed to the otherwise. I think this is something that is very, for certain people, when they are not exposed to something, but when they are being introduced to something new, there is a gap in the learning, and it actually discourages certain people. But I feel like the non-school platform environment is actually very encouraging and supportive for the slower learners. So yeah, that's all. Yeah, thank you.
I think your workshop leader was very great in terms of
Yes, Mr. Antonio Alicia is the best.
We have
Thank
nothing
you, Joyee. I think you got a die-hard fan already. You can invite her to become an ambassador. Man.
She's not a paid spokesperson of non-school.
Okay, thank you. But I also understand that where Joyee is coming from. His concern in the sense that if this becomes, right now it's an open platform for like Joyee say that for people as slow learner who are beginners, it's very easy it's a happy environment to learn from. But if it started to get corrupted or it become a privileged platform, like everyone go there, it's become very competitive, then the intention might alter and mutated, then it might not be a happy environment to learn anymore.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
Definitely.
thank you so much. Thank you so much for the question and feedback. Thank you, Juming, again for the happy vibes. So so we are being shoot out overrun of time. So let's have a 5 minutes of toilet break or water break. Or if we don't need that water break or toilet break, then we can straight away jump to the second speakers. Everyone's cool with that? Then we don't need toilet break lah. Okay, good. Okay, thank you. So hi Wendy.
Hi,
You
Joyee.
ready?
Yeah,
You
yeah.
enjoying the first
Good.
session?
Yeah, certainly. I'm quite interested in detail, like about what they are doing. Yeah, and Bryan told me about that, like, but a little bit about it. So I never really like know what exactly they were doing, but now like I kind of get the idea. So
Great.
maybe I can just kickstart.
Yeah, sure. You can introduce that and kickstart. Hi everyone, this is Wendy. So yep, you go ahead.
Yep. So you can see my screen.
Yep.
So it's also a long day for me. but I think today, like what I'm going to show is like mostly the video, and I do want to like kind of spend more time to discuss with you guys. It's definitely an eager group, I can see. And so let me know if there's something wrong with the sound. So okay, maybe I just quickly introduce myself. I'm Wendy Teo. So 3 years back, I moved back to Borneo. So previously I was in London working as an architect for Norman Foster. So if you're really interested in the body of work that I do, you can go to my website, wendyteo.com. But today I want to share more in depth about what Borneo Lab is doing. So Borneo Lab has been inspired by the concept of berjalai. So the berjalai is actually means that doing a big trip. Like, so this kind of notion is actually something that like, I don't know how many of you are actually from Borneo, but this kind of like concept is actually something very familiar to most of the Bornean, because it actually means that like in the past, a lot of people used to live in a secluded community. So once in their life, they have to travel far and also meet more people. Like, so in order to have, the kind of like living standard and also the life value and the moral standard crash with others, and also have a like conversation with others. So that is the only way that you can grow. So we want our practice to be inspired by the idea of berjalai, and also constantly moving, constantly having conversation, constantly having collaboration as well. So this is how we started to form our practice structure in four major components. So in Borneo Lab, we do like 4 different services. Like the first thing is design services. But in order to have more in-depth conversation, we do research workshop. And in order to have more breadth in whatever we do, like we do curatorial direction as well. So what we saw like for the last few years is actually a lot of things has been done, but it hasn't been properly documented. So contributing why like a lot of like information and knowledge kind of lost in translation. So we decided to also set out a publication department to documenting like whatever we have done, and also like collecting like whatever other people have done through the collective journalism approach. So because so like we started to have like different partners or agent or client or collaborator from different people, like developer, festival bodies, furniture brand, or in educational institute, or designer artisan, or even the cultural agency like British Council. That's how I met like Clarissa as well. So with the publication, we have the Borneo Art Collective book, which sold out in 2018, and also Borneo Lab book like in 2019. So all the time, what we are trying to do is actually setting out an evolving material library in order to get all this like knowledge kind of ongoing, documented, and also shared to the public. So today I'm just going to pick a few things because as I know, like the time is precious. So I'm just going to pick like one example from the component, so then I can share more in depth. Like, so for the research workshop, we always want to see ourselves as a design lab. Yeah, we are lucky to have a place to kind of experiment and test work with. Currently, this entire thing has become a very green like spaces. And we also did like a few like 30 days workshop as well in order to kickstart like different conversation, either with the musician, designer, or the carpenter, or even the people interested in the performances. So for the last few years, we're also lucky to work with like different cultural ministry from different countries as well. And then also Rainforest French Festival has been very kind patron to whatever we have been doing. And for our research workshop, it is running more as a, like we are looking at the local context. Like for example, this one was done like a year ago. And then what we did was basically we looking at the city center of Kuching, and we took the map from the local council, and then we look at it more in depth by interviewing people, measuring things, and understanding the context, figure out like who worked there, what kind of occupation, and also how much time they spent in there, and also the demography. So we are quite confident to say that we in fact developing a map that is even more like detailed than the local council. So from time to time, they also come to us and asking like whether we'll be interested in to collaboration, things like that. So with our like the fabrication workshop, because we have CNC and also the water jet partner in place, and in our in-house, we have our laser cutter and also the 3D printer. So from time to time, we have been like kind of generating like conversation about the fabrication, about the local material we have in Kuching. So like, I think some of you might be familiar because I do see some people teaching who taught in UCSI. So this is a project, like a research workshop, a very short one, only 5 days with UCSI. So this is also showing some kind of example that what we did, like, so maybe day 1 or 2, like we come up with the prototype, and then after 4 days, like it's kind of come out with a full structure. So we kind of expose students and push them to in the constructional process and think about the detail, how to put things together. Yeah, so with the kind of research workshop that we did, we're actually looking at like, for example, the anatomy of the craft practice, like in Kuching. So this was done in last year as well. So personally, I'm a visiting scholar of Fengshan University. So every year we had to do some kind of program to enable the student to expose to the context of like Borneo, for example, like and also what we're interested in is also the material culture. And for the material culture, how can we go in depth? Because each of the material, when we talk about material, I think it's always like very shallow in a way that we are looking at only the material feature or the material properties itself, but in fact it's kind of carry a lot of cultural context and the craft context, like who made it, how they made it, and also what kind of tools involved in it. So the anatomy is actually an implication of like whatever involved in the craft practice, we want to look more in depth into it. So we also expose students to kind of look at that information, and also documenting it like to the point that they can do some innovation about it. So I think what we have gathered thus far from our R&D workshop is basically the material supply network, and also the digital fabrication network, and the material treatment database, and certainly some material prototype. And for sure, the community engagement as well. So our community have been very kind to us. So sharing a lot of knowledge and also sharing a lot of story about how we can do things with them. So for the curatorial direction, so we always see ourselves as a design collective. So later on, I will show the video of this one. 2018, we invited 6 designers from 3 different countries, worked on 20 days to look at like how can they work with the local craftsmen and come up with some innovation. So maybe I'm going to play a video, but I'm not sure. Okay, let me know if you can't hear it.
No, there's no voice. There's no sound. But you want to try again?
Is that okay?
Yeah, you want to increase the volume?
Oh yeah, okay. Sorry, yeah. It's no rain and also
Yes.
the exposure of sunlight, for example, Bryan is continuously changing its texture. They're very strong. They're also very persistent as well. Borneo craft at the moment is pretty much underexplored. If we want to move further, I think there is a lot of conversation ought to take place. Either it is from within or like coming from outside to come in. They always use bamboo, but how about like using bamboo in Borneo to look at the potential of like merging bamboo with tin? Chee, if you look at her work, there's a lot of like very region-specific lacquer use. How could that lacquer like bring to Borneo and then use on the craft over here? Baywan, Palm and Chee, they are quite playful in whatever they do. There's a lot of association with how could they mix different materials together. Julian, the founder of Wing Artisan Society, and how could he working with the Indonesia Kalimantan craftsmen and to bring it over to share the expertise with rata maker around Kuching. Wilson from Private Chee, it's one of the most prestigious timber workshop of Taiwan. So he will work with like the Belian timber over here. Kang Kang from Joyee Studio, he look at like timber bark to put timber bark in spatial use rather than just stay on the decorative level. 6 designers from Thailand and Taiwan. Within 20 days, they have to bring out the conversation between their respective region and Borneo.
For cruising, like you have a lot of people, like different nationality in one city, different food, different languages.
Chinese people, Malayu people, and indigenous people, they mix together.
不同的族群，然后交流之后出现出了新的食物，我觉得这是一件很特别的一件事。
The identity of the group of people is really impact me, and I feel that they can live together.
And they like a friend and family. It's quite interesting for us to see that.
Very interesting for us. Like you guys already blend in everything together.
There's a lot of different group of people before and also this kind of thing I want to bring this together to create my product. I bring lacquer from Thailand. It's just like a bit to put two things that looks totally different. I mean wood and broken ceramics. But the material that's very interesting that I found here is timber and billion timber.
我使用的木头是比莲是一个比较坚硬的木头，它本身的纹理方向是交错的。
We think it's definitely beautiful wood, but it could be more than just a solid wood or
more than like big piece of
more
furniture.
than big piece of furniture.
一般家具是比较方正的，我想只要做比较细致的，就是有很多线条上面是需要比较多手工的部分。
We wanna introduce the new way of this to be more like a small object.
People can easily touch and like feel the materials, something like that.
The concept of movement is from Ngajas dance, which is a traditional dance of Iban's people. We try to reinterpret in our way. It's like a mix past and future together.
One of the local indigenous community, which is called Kenya, they practice a farming technique called the sweeping. They will cut down a small area of the forest, and then they will grow their food there for a few years. And then after that, they will move on. Just before they leave, they will plant rattan in order to rehabilitate the damaged forest. Rattan, besides being a material that we can use for making furniture, baskets, and everyday objects, rattan have this amazing ability to heal damaged forests, and that is something I found really, really amazing and a very important idea I wanted to integrate into the project for Rainforest Film Festival.
想用这个材料，然后让观者来看的时候，可以感受到，其实这就是你们当地的树皮。那我希望他们可以感受到早期他们可能在住在长屋的时候，盖屋顶的时候，他们也是会用到树皮这个材料，然后就让大家回忆那一段。那其实我来当地的时候才发现，其实这个树皮其实很不容易找，不管是国专就是有很多热带雨林，为什么会这个材料会就是没有一直被当地运用。
We have a chance to work with Disney people, and we work with Uncle Ho. He told us about he has like 3 sons, 1 daughter, but no one wants to do things anymore.
The owner of this last remaining rattan shop, he mentions that 10 years ago, where we are now in Jalan Bishopsgate, there used to be quite a few rattan makers, rattan sellers. But nowadays, this is the last remaining rattan shop.
I think one of the challenge of Borneo craft scene at the moment is like people always perceive that if you're not doing lawyer, architect, or doctor, then you're not doing well. These craftsmen, they would rather to give up their skill, and it's a huge problem.
Encourage or sharing inspire together to engage young and senior one. That is very important to keep continue this.
Next generation have to see what they have and develop and evolve for the future.
希望这些工艺不要消失，那我觉得他们可以继续保留下来，然后继续做更多的变化。
To step outside of our comfort zone and to reimagine what this material can do.
By doing so, it will bring in more awareness and also the local people interested in asking the question, like, what can we bring to the table? So this is after the workshop, like for the 20 days workshop, like our outcome is actually from the product scale to the installation scale. So you can see Tasty Timber from Bay One and Ruckus Studio with Artisan Society. And then last year, we actually being invited by the festival again to start like a bigger project. But this is more like a secundo of the Designing Bornean Aesthetic series. So in this one, we did the Redesigning Bornean experience. So I'm going to share the video as well.
imperfect. If we stay in the jungle, I think we will discover new things.
It is so vast that unknown habitats are discovered, even till today. One of the most fascinating plants that I am investigating here is agarwood.
The agarwood tree is one of the most precious aromatic material in the world today.
It's very rare to find an essential oil candle that is made of precious oils such as agarwood or linseed. By tracing the scent back to its origin, we can peer into a region's past, present, and future. Now, hopefully, the nature will be the ultimate beneficiary from this act of awareness.
Borneo Laboratory book is the second publication in a series of 5. It's a project we've been working on for the past 18 months. We collaborated with creative people in Borneo to come up with this documentation on amazing projects. At Borneo Laboratory, we want to reimagine, redesign, and redefine our local narrative.
What we want to do, trying to do this year is like, how could we also pass down like whatever we have learned in the process.
We want to show them the possibilities and also inspire them to start a new conversation on Borneo art and culture.
Let our imagination go wild and not limit ourselves.
The spirit of collaboration is always at the core of Borneo Lab.
Maybe I can also explain the last one. So because 60 people participated in the project, but then they never really seen each other like during the process. So that was the first time round, like we really managed to get everyone together on the launching event. So everyone, like, so if you look at the light point, in fact, they representing one individual from the, so we were shooting that through a drone machine. So we managed to capture 60 people, like lit out the origin. So that was the project, like in the context of Kuching with the origin. And then plating the wow, we are quite grateful for the fact that like the
Was it my side or
the entire thing was quite well received. The 20s was so. Hello?
Hi.
Hello? Can you hear me? Hello?
Yes,
Yeah,
I can
sorry.
hear you.
It seems like my connection is not stable, isn't it? Okay.
I think it's a bit, yeah, no worries.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah.
So the sense, Museum of Sense. And so apart from the region-specific investigation, exploration, we also interested in looking at like the curatorial direction that touch on the global issue as well. Yeah. So maybe I can also play a video about it.
Borneo Lab is a multidisciplinary creative platform. Over the last 2 years, we have been working with designer, artisan, filmmaker from all around the world on regional collaboration. Our base is in Kuching City, Borneo. In this coming April, we are traveling to Singapore for our next project, Sketches Sundown Festival. We believe this is the best suited place for innovating upon the potential of plastic waste.
We keep thinking about how to actually address this issue of plastic pollution. When we came across Bohe and saw what they do in Shanghai, we just realized it was the perfect collaborative opportunity. They harvest plastic waste and then use those as raw material to create a series of these hexagonal panels. We're using 400 of these plastic panels and turn them into a pavilion.
Everyone can see like the plastic that they throw, that they think it's no value. Now it has many value and very beautiful things.
I think we have to take up this challenge where we have to take this material after it's being used. They don't consider it as a waste, but there is a second life, there is a third life.
After the festival, the installation will be dismantled and then donated to Epic Home as constructional material. Epic Home is a non-profit organization based in Malaysia, building home for community who needs them. We believe the world is too small to be defined by one narrative. By working together as a community, we can make a difference.
So these are the plastic panel that like we managed to recycle and turn them into the towel that we use into the pavilion that we built in Sketcher Sundown Festival. So some of these are actually the outcome of it. So for the design approach, we are like, as you can see from at the front, like we have been looking a lot at the material research. And so today, because Joyee was saying that like maybe focus a bit on the rainforest fringe. So I select like 2 projects to share with you guys. Like, so the first one is the instrument and then the origin. So then, but then I hope I have some time to share about like what we are doing currently. Let's see. So when I first approached by Rainforest Fringe, I was asked to design a bamboo like architecture. Like so when I first came out with the draft drawings, like I still remember vividly, like a lot of contractor that I approached, they were saying that there's no such thing, there's no bamboo construction available in Kuching, and even if you manage to find a construction like people, but then you wouldn't be able to find the right bamboo. So then we realized, okay, this will be a very steep learning curve that we need to kind of like basically build, find our bamboo and also treat, like learning how to kind of like treat them and also design the detail. Like, so we were traveling like from places to places. I still remember like going to Taiwan, Bandung, and even Chiang Mai, learning about it, like, and kind of like pick out how do they treat bamboo and also all this knowledge, like and bring it back to Borneo and start thinking about like with the trait of the kind of bamboo that we have. So we still remember like we have 6 types, but only 3 types is available for the constructional purpose, which is what the local name is Auru Tering bamboo and Brunei bamboo. So we turn them into the structure that can be used for the Rainforest Fringe Festival. So at the same time, we're also involving a lot of community.
Hello, can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Around Kuching to help out with the
Oh, it's so sorry. Okay.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, can. I think the bamboo disrupting your line.
Okay. Sorry.
Yeah.
Maybe I can carry on. Yeah.
Yeah, you can carry on now.
Okay. So yeah, so this is the outcome of it. Like after a few weeks, like putting it together, like learning from the process and also learning from the local group as well. So this is what we put together as an outcome. So I know for a lot of architect or for a lot of designer, the process can tend to end from here. Like after you have the nice image, after you already kind of like get the building done. But what we realize in the process is very important that like we documenting it down, because apparently like all this process, because it hasn't been properly documented. So that kind of contributing to a lot of loss of knowledge, and the fact that like people used to build with bamboo and then no longer carry on. I think that is also a very signal of we need to do something about it. So we did our publication. not simply looking at the bamboo as an outcome, but also sharing about the detail, how we do it and why we do it, and even like how to harvest it, like, and how people have done it in different places and how we could do it in our own context. So these drawings actually comprise like the you know, the chemical process and also the natural process of treating and harvesting, and even the finishing the bamboo. So we're not simply looking at the bamboo, but also the rattan, the timber, the bark. Yeah. So a lot of people are curious about like, okay, with the propagation, and we're quite lucky. This is our second one. And with our first one, it was quite well received. And with the process, we actually did it through crowdfunding. So this is our crowdfunding video.
When we first planned for our first propagation Borneo Art Collective book, we thought that it has to be a book that reflects Borneo value in terms of the content, the message, the organization, or even the bookmaking itself. The book is about the practicing artists and the craftsmen around Borneo. At some point in the making process, we were in the dilemma of quality versus quantity. If we go for the handmade quality we wanted, it will be much more pricier and less copies than the digital prints. Luckily, we know how to see things from the flip side. If we are willing to pay more, we will be able to work with some of the really best craftsmen of our time through propagation. Everything about making a book excites us, especially good content organized with high quality. It was how our first book came out in 2017. Until today, we are quite proud with the decision we made. The book was sold out within the first month. We are also proud to notice a number of cross-regional collaboration took place beyond the book.
In 2019, we wanted to make a book that will take reader on a compelling journey to discover more in depth about the Borneo innovation in art and craft. We also invited a very talented and also innovative content contributor to think about the kind of innovation that we should see in their respective art field. More excitingly, we even invite them to act on it.
In Design Day, we were looking at how the material in Borneo found its new life through contemporary design. In Food section, we explore the diversity of jungle food culture and bring out a series of contemporary interpretation for it. In documentation part, we found a unique way to unfold Borneo landscape. We also speak about the unspeakable through an artistic perspective. In performing art, we consciously initiate more theatre projects in public to set out more awareness and acceptance within the community. Looking back the last 2 years, our journey has connected us to some brave collaborators. Now we hope you're one of them too.
We put this project out here because we want you to be part of the journey. With your support, we can bring this project into life and inspire more people. We do so because we know that this is the storm preceded the ripples.
So like we are quite grateful for the fact that like within 2 weeks time we managed to gather the fund that we need for the project. So that's how like we got our second book published. And if you're interested in the book, shameless promotion. so you can come to our website and then like look at it.
Just put in the link in the group chat.
Exactly. Yeah, but I couldn't find the chat. Like, yeah. But anyway, so when it comes to the second project, it's basically also a secundo of the first project. Like after the first pavilion was quite successful, like the second for the second year, the festival body approached us again and asking us whether we want to do another like bamboo pavilion. But then we were like, but we're not doing, the same thing. Like again, if we want to do it, then we want to make it like educational. So this time around, the location is different. So some of you may came to Kuching before, so you might know that like when Kuching people talk about like their address, it's always referring to well, I work in third mile, and then I live in first mile, and then I hang out in the second mile, like things like that. It all has to do with our 0 point. So that 0 point is basically our site, and because Kuching is actually growing in a radiant way, as you can probably see in the map. So this is where the 0 point happened. It's also like where the development started, and also you will see a statue of the Brooke family from there. And this is the building done during the Brooke era, and it used to be at the courthouse and now turned into a public venue. So it's a building like with some colonial like feature, as you can see. So this is where like in the urban setting wise, it's kind of like define our origin. So we thought like, how could we do something about it, like with the local material and then with some contemporary language. So this is what I came out, and then we actually recycle like some of the details we learned from the first like the instrument. So with this project, because we want to let people to build it rather than us building it, so we spend more time on like looking at the like the sequence of process, break it down into some understandable like language diagram. So this is all like, you know, the diagram that like we trying to get people to understand how to build it, and also the health and safety like precaution as well. So a lot of it is actually something that we learned from the architectural background. and so after after we have been sharing that kind of brochure to every participant came on board. So within 2 weeks time, this is how it's progressed, and we can see the frame already kind of put into place. And model definitely is very helpful for the process as well. So basically, people from all walk of life and also all work of like disciplines, they came during their lunchtime, or even like after work time, or even the morning time, like some retiree. And we are quite grateful, because during the time when we first started it was actually during the Puasa time, and also there's a few from the Muslim community actually join us under the scorching sun and join us for the launching event as well. So we are quite grateful for the community in Kuching. So yeah, after 3 weeks time, like it's sort of happened like this. And it's kind of also, well, very heartwarming, and at the same time quite shocking to realize that, well, if you give them a platform, if you give them a chance, people love to do things. People want to have a chance to kind of like learn and share and work together and get to know people through building the origin together. So this is why we call this the origin project. And it's not simply us building it, but also we're engaging a group of people like from Kuching, from Borneo, around Borneo, like building it. Yeah, so this is how it's looked like from the top view. Yeah, so we also did the performance event during the time as well. It's called Primates. And then, so the festival bodies invited like 4 dancers to perform in the event. So this is some of the photo from the event. Yep. So yeah, come to our next project. so okay, this is actually the project that like during the Rainforest Fringe Festival, like we realized actually there's a building that has been disused for quite a while, like, and it's actually in the city center. So it used to call Ting and Ting, T-I-N-G. So it's named after the Ting family. So they used to run this supermarket for 75 years. And then so after the festival, we have time to kind of like engage with the the new landlord. So he bought over the building. So he was like, well, like after seeing our proposal and also after seeing the RFF, he was like, okay, you guys should do it. So we took over it, and during the MCO, we rename it into Fing and Fing. The reason why is like rather than calling it after our group or our name, or even like the name after the family, we should kind of like give it in like make it into a platform for the city. So we want to turn it into a My Factory, populate the city with more thinkers. So it's a placemaking project, and at the same time, like we're looking at 4 major components: the art and design, and also the self-sustainable lab and experimental education. And we also set out the F&B lab as well. So so after that, COVID happened. So, so I think it's affected everyone. Yeah. So during the COVID, we kind of like spend a lot of time with ourselves as well, and also thinking about the project. Like, you know, a lot of uncertainty happened, and a lot of project kind of postponed and hold back as well. So we also want to know more about the situation and understanding like how people think about it more. So because every year we did host like a reading club. So that reading club, reading retreat will happen in the deep jungle or in the like near to the waterfall. So it has to be Wi-Fi-less. But this time around, we decided to put it online. So it's a 4 bi-weekly reading club section, and Clarissa was part of it, like for the last part. And I also see like some of you was involving in it. Like we had some highlighted discussion. So it's kind of set out, you know, the plan for us. In like, I can go into detail, but I think this will drag on for maybe a few days. Yeah, because it's 15 pages of like the summary. So but I think it's very interesting. I can talk about that maybe later on. So, and after that, we also did the online design workshop that focusing on the public realm design in the post-COVID-19 era. So that kind of like workshop. So these are all mind map that kind of grow like during the workshop. So you can see at the end, I couldn't put in the last one because it's going to crash if I take the JPEG. Yeah, so this one is a workshop that done online, and it's also gave us a lot of clarity about how the educational workshop can be carried out online as well. And we were also rethinking the food in the city. So, and also the waste, obviously, like the plastic bottles, and turn them into like some pots, like potentially some vertical facade. Yeah, something like this. Planting should be beautiful because it's always associated with the dirt. So how could we make it beautiful? And also rethinking the waste-free process, like how to do things with a waste-free process in mind. And also, like you might see some of our posts, like for the Borneo Art Collective, like we have been looking at the plastic waste. And previously, last time when we did the Plastic Fantastic project, it was more about, okay, we look at the bottle and turn them into the towel. But if you look at the plastic EPA rating, like there are certain plastic is not sit within the you know, the recyclable like material. So this time around, we take on some of them, like for example, the plastic bags is something that we do, and we name this project Rainbow Project, and we turn it into like some furniture scale and the wall scale and architectural scale, which we want to engage the city to act together. So this is actually my mom whole year worth of plastic collection. so we turn them into the you know, the plastic yarn that can be used during the process. So actually it was just last weekend, and then we did the 3 days workshop, and then it was full. But having said that, like this is during the MCO time, we only allow 5 people like in each time. So you can tell, like, well, anyway. So with the next project, we are going to look at like rethinking public relation as well. We are quite fortunate because we got some support from the British Council and also Sandari to look at like 4 projects that will look at like how could we set out the public relation again during the new normal. So it's implied like some installation, like the sign of hop. Like the moment you go into the entrance, you will see the hops populated by the the wall populated with the hop story from the local people, and also the immersive theater and the wish tree that will only grow through the wishes contributed by the audience online and offline. So it's an omni-channel exhibition, and also some outdoor film as well. So it's allow us to kind of test with the place-making strategy of the area. Yeah, so these are our partners thus far. So we have been lucky because we work with some of the great, really brave people and very, very kind, like partner. Yeah, we can forever, like, you know, say good things about our partners. And we're really believing in the quote, like, if you want to go fast, go along. If you want to go far, go together. So I think, like, fundamentally, they also believing the sentence like this. And if you're interested in knowing more, I will encourage you to come to our website and checking out what we have been doing, and check out the publication as well, if you can. And that's it. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep. Okay, so I think it's take out like, okay, 30 minutes.
I think it's fine. It's good. I think we all feel very inspired. Yeah, that's nice.
Thank
I
you.
think we do have some questions in the group chat, but maybe before that, I actually wanting to ask. So, of all these amazing curation that you have, the publications or even the rainforest fringe installations, are there much participants from students themselves?
Sorry, which
are
one?
Are there a lot of participants involving students, like
Yes.
studying students?
Yes, but I think like mostly when you talk about, because we do have like different type of workshop. So for our annual workshop, we do have one that is totally only dedicated for designer student. Like for example, the workshop that you saw, the last one that we put online, we did online. It was mostly students from urban design, human computer interaction, and product design, and one architecture. so kind of expect, yeah. So we do have like do get the interest from an umbrella of design disciplines.
I see. Because the reason why I asked is because when you mentioned about all this documentation, especially on the bamboo part. So let's say the students are exposed to it, like all this documentation, and in a way that, because it reminds me of earlier non-school was sharing like architects, and then graduates, then intern, and then we go to the next slide, and then we have profession, and then the last is the workforce, right? I was thinking like the hierarchy will reverse, you know, if the interns has the knowledge of this bamboo documentation. In a way, the interns are actually should be teaching the professionals on this. I mean, the hierarchy is never like that. It can always invert through this unconventional learning. That's what I thought. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Especially for the plastic yarn, especially for the plastic yarn movement. Currently, we're supposed to take in like 4 interns this year, but 3 of them actually from overseas, so they can't come in. So this year we only have one Sakai from Penang, but just finished his part 1 in So we also like for example exposing to all this knowledge. Like I remember during the workshop, so because we do a lot of like public engagement, and also the workshop that we need people to kind of like understanding how to instruct people like to do it or to carry out the participatory process. So just, I mean, like even as an intern, I think like fundamentally you know how to communicate as with common sense, and also understanding the nuance of the situation. So we also expose him to kind of like how do you communicate with people, and also guide them to do the plastic yarn. So I think like it's really depending on like whether you allow that kind of situation to happen, or the platform to happen. So
nice.
Yeah,
it's inspiring. Okay, thank you. Okay, let's go through the questions before everyone get too tired and fall asleep during the session. Okay, I think I remember Clarissa asked that is there any research or methodology that you look up to when you search for all these local craftsmen, or am I correct? Am I understanding the question correctly?
Also, like how you finding like all these like people that you collaborate with. I guess it links to my other question, and then as well as documentation. Yeah.
So I think for the documentation bits, right? If you look at how the like Borneo Art Collective, Borneo Lab like started, actually we started from documentation, and that started when I was still in London. So before coming back, I was already doing quite a lot of homework about how to carry out these kind of things, and also like understanding the situation a bit, like because having away for 15 years, I basically knew no one, and I still remember like 2014, there was a time that like Malaysia was being listed as one of the country associated to cronyism, like which means that you can't do anything without knowing someone important. So it was like, yeah,
that's a very nice way to put it.
And I don't know, like, but that was my worry. That was my concern, because it's like, just imagine like if you have been away from home for so many years, and then all of a sudden, like this is the kind of the gateway, and also the kind of the level of understanding people have toward your home country, and then that was worrying. So at that point, I was kind of thinking that, okay, I need to navigate into like understanding like what is the situation and what are the people that actively doing things, and also like I need to really find the like-minded people, and also understanding like how could I, how do I feel about like, all the things that already springing out in the landscape. So I think like doing so, I think was really helpful. I don't know whether there are some overseas students here, but
yeah,
maybe
we do.
yeah. So I think I hope it will be helpful.
Hazazi is in London.
Huh? Sorry?
Hazazi is in London.
Hey, yeah. So so basically, while doing so, I kind of understanding more about like what is going on, and I think like knowing like what is kind of like lacking in the system as well, and I think like obviously we will need to, like, there will be a lot of people will be telling you like, oh, you can't do this in Malaysia, you can't do this in things like, but naysayer is going to be always naysayer. So I think you might as well just navigate like what is can be done in the landscape. So we started from the documentation in order for us to understanding more about the context, and it was helpful because later on those people that associate with or affiliate with the documentation parts, or the people that we found during the documentation, kind of like come back as a list of collaborator, or as a list of like partners. So
awesome. It's like growing the network internally.
exactly. Yeah.
Okay. So hope that answered your question, Clarissa. And then on to Haziq. I think earlier you were asking that how do the local craftsmen react to the collaborations and after the collaboration?
You mean the community or the
when you have all these initiative, and then how does the local craftsman actually react to it? Are they very receptive, or like they're very open to it?
They're very open to it. They're very open to this.
Wow.
And also from time to time, going back to Bishopgate, like they are telling me, they were kind of, oh yeah, you are the one, doing that. And then, just come and talk. And then they, like, I still remember last time they were sharing with me, but of course that was pre-COVID-19. So they were sharing to me that like, the business is like, there are more people coming to us and doing the custom made product. And I kind of said, well, I was like, good for you, because it means that people start wearing like your potential, and also you should kind of like also honor the the product, because that is also showing like it's helped to elevate the industry as well. So also with our craftsmen, like, because obviously the collaboration is not going to be just like and unless you have something wrong going on in the process. So we still have been like collaborating with them even during this time.
Haziq, you want to add on anything?
No, that's really nice to know. It's also just really nice to know that like you started your homework whilst you were abroad. So like you already had this kind of vision, because I think that, that's kind of what a lot of people who are overseas, or at least I'm finding myself doing, that kind of like formulating what can I do once I get home. And to see like what you've done is super, super, super inspiring. Like it's really,
thank you. You're so kind.
really blossomed into like.
Haziq is an expert in urban farming.
Not expert, no, nowhere near.
we need urban farmer.
Go.
Go.
His thesis was on urban farming.
Thesis on fire. It's hot.
But yeah, I mean, I'm super like interested to come to Kuching one day, check out what you've done for sure.
Wendy, how would you say the Kuching creative scenes currently?
I think it's definitely growing a lot. Since I mean, obviously there's already a few initiatives, a few things going on in the landscape. But for at least for the last 3 years being in Kuching, I do find that like there's a lot of conversation, and it's not like a very superficial, conversation. It's like a lot of time they touch on the social discourse. A lot of time they touch on like the kind of like conversation need to be talked about. Yeah, like for example, the depression issue, or even the LGBT community, or even the like some of the issue there, or even the dementia like society. Like there's a lot of like this kind of like in-depth conversation that you like at least when I was younger, I didn't think those kind of conversation will surface in the public realm. But I think it's kind of show the maturity, and also people willingness to really talk about like what's matter.
That's great. That's nice. Anyone in the crowd from
Sorry, do you mind
Kuching?
if I just add on another
Yeah,
question?
yeah.
Kind of
Go ahead,
relating to
Hazazi.
like what Clarissa was asking, like how did you manage to kind of form this regional network? Is that like from your time previously, or did that happen whilst you were in Kuching? Like the amount of collaborators you had is it's quite a lot, and from different regions, and
And
they're
they
very
are all amazing.
yeah.
Thank you.
It's so good.
So, like the collaborators you find are really interesting. Right?
We want their context.
Yeah.
So we can share to non-school, and non-school can ask them to do workshop.
I mean, they are
think
all
it's
very
only
friendly and kind.
It's
Yeah.
only really hard, like in Southeast Asia, we just don't know where to look for these people, right? Like,
Yeah.
how did you form that?
How?
But I have to say, I wouldn't say that it's coming from my formal like contact, because I've been away from home for so many years, and basically when I first came back, I knew no one. Yeah, but of course through the help of like crowdsourcing and crowdfunding, is kind of open out the window, because I have to. So it's kind of like help, not simply just the project, but also us as an entity, as a group, as a collective, like we can reach out to others. And then I think like eventually I have to say, like, of course it's quite sad, like if you being in London, you probably also aware of that as well. Like Malaysian for the last few years, it has been associated a lot because of the news being featured. It has been associated a lot with the issue we have, like the corruption, and also the government incompetency, and also the waste issue. So it's always associated with problem, and I know, yeah. So I think this is in a way, like, I have to say, it's not like this it's not like this when you are really in. There's a lot of passionate people not having the platform to be featured. There's a lot of like people interested in doing real things, real change, real impact, and really like really get together and do something. I think is the most crucial and fundamental step that we collectively need to take on, because otherwise it's like people will be always stuck in that kind of, I mean, it's so easy to kind of like dwell in that kind of negative, like pessimistic vibe of like, oh yeah, just complaining about what is not working. But then like the moment you start certain act, this is the only way that you can pull in the like-minded people. And I always find that there's like, so there are also people that thinking that like, oh yeah, you must be like networking a lot. But people knowing me, like for example, Nick, you know me, I'm actually an introvert. Like, yeah, just trying to find the in a way, we will need to kind of like find the right instrument. Like for example, for certain things, like if you need to kind of go online, then do it online, do a website, do the video. If you don't want to repeating like speaking about the things that make you nervous all the time, then do it, and then it's help you to deliver like what you wish to see. And at the same time, you can also pull in the buy-in from the people that you wish to connect to. Yeah.
Yeah.
I hope that, yeah.
Yvonne, we should start something in Penang already. Cannot lose kuching.
It's not about competition, guys.
Yvonne, unmute yourself. I need alliance.
Yeah, it's not about competition.
Yeah, no, just joking.
No. Oh, it's not about competition. I agree. It's about developing Malaysia as a nation.
So does your
so nice
background
to
says,
see-
right?
Yeah.
It would be so nice to see, like, Malaysia from Pantai Timur though. Like seriously. I was
Sorry?
looking at that just now,
Sorry, Hazazi,
like-
you were saying? We can't hear you.
Sorry, I was thinking like it would be so nice to see something from Pantai Timur because like we so rarely see, and there's so much there. Like it's so
Exactly.
so rich. Yeah.
In fact, last year we started this conversation about Langkasuka culture. But then we also spoke to, because I think like if you look at Malaysia context, right, Borneo is one of the cultural entity, and another things that kind of rarely being featured or talked about or share about or even like really articulated is Langkasuka culture. So Langkasuka culture, like having been in like the Malaysian landscape or the Thailand landscape for 1200 years, and there's so much like monuments and culture. Like Wow is actually from Langkasuka, and the Gasing is also from Langkasuka, or even like a lot of architectural wonders is actually from Langkasuka, but it's not being talked about a lot. So I think it's also the culture that being undermined in the Malaysia context. So because I think like there's a one thing is like obviously there's a lot of sensitivity over the issue, the cultural issue, but the fact that people undermine it just because it is I just think that like something like we just can't, you know, do this kind of erasure upon the things that is within our landscape, and we only focus a lot on the West Peninsula. Like so I think those are the things that it's a bit saddening.
Agreed. Yeah, just to add on that, I think it is also because of like I said just now, in terms of the identity,
the identity,
the political identity that you don't want to portray anything that is non-Islamic based in terms of the identity of the country. The fact that, let's say, the Lembah Bujang is not really celebrated as something that is as a monument, as important as it is the Kedah tour and the pre-Islamic part of the Malaysian history or this land history. Of course, Langkasuka is also part of it. I mean, even let's say you talk about, let's say, the East Peninsula Malaysia, talking about Mak Yong and stuff like that.
Exactly, Mak Yong.
And even the so basically now you're portraying, Kota Baru as this, more like modern Islamic cities with mural of Arabic people and stuff like that. You're trying to change your identity or rebrand yourself for political reason, and forgetting.
Totally with you on that, because at the end of the day, it's not about like branding or rebranding. It's about like the cultural significance and how could we learn from there, and how could we do something like something that we can be proud of from there, because there's so much like I don't know whether you know the woodcraftman Nohaiza, and also some people that like doing great things there. And it's so sad that those are the things that I somehow felt that they are even more undermined than the Borneo entity. We speak a lot about the indigenous culture like in Borneo, but the fact that we don't speak about the Orang Asli or even the culture that has been there for so many years and has been documented. And at the moment, Thailand is taking the narrative of Langkasuka instead of us. And we are not even like there to talk about like Nusantara this day. And Indonesia is kind of taking over. So what are we as Malaysian? If we are always kind of like shying away from like, celebrating the wonders of what we have, I think like it's not really stepping out, it's really stepping back. Yeah.
And also I think it's because of again, if let's say we mentioned about education just now, talking we started off the narrative of our presentation just now. Basically, we are very Western centric, and everyone wants to further study in UK, or not even including myself. I would love to do that, but of course in our local public universities as well, you don't really learn about craft making in your first year studio. You learn about composition from Kandinsky and Bauhaus and stuff like that. You don't really learn about what you have in your own backyard. You don't know about the local, even the local modern artists. You don't learn about Latif Mohidin and Syed Ahmad Jamal, and even the modern ones, you know. So until you are a bit older and you do your research yourself, then you only know. So what more about Nurhaiza and those other one who did all this craft making and whatnot? You don't put that in the syllabus, and our syllabus that we have in school is like from 20 years ago. It's the same, it's the same version of the 70s, 80s, graduated from Western, but and then set up the curricula and whatnot, and then we have been following that, and no one really questioned that. So we are neither here nor there, not really into this, future technology thing, and not really into this heritage, learning from us. So we're just serving the industry.
Yeah. I think it's too much focus on the how to make the student market proof, and eventually this market is predominantly serving for the developer. It's a very development inclined narrative. And I think the danger of that is you see the current developer model doesn't work anymore. And 60%, I don't know about in your area, you can probably share in the chat group. Wow, it's a good thing. it's a good way to do it. So about 60%, 50% and 60% of the office is kind of in vacancy right now. And a lot of them are actually looking at renting out the space or even selling out the space. So we kind of seeing the symptom of maybe the pre-symptom of what is going to happen next. And it's also indicate a lot on the developer inclined narrative is no longer the right one. But if you look at the education, and we had a lot of conversation like that with the local student and also with the intern that we engage with, basically if the syllabus is trying to only make the student becoming a market proof, and then the moment when they got out from it is no longer relevant, then or even telling them this is not the game, then I think we are actually preparing them to be the victim of the what we say obsolete system. Yeah. So and it's quite sad. In fact, we do have a lot of material to look at. If you look at Malaysia as a landscape, right, not simply Kelantan, but also Terengganu, or even Johor, or even other places. There is a lot of wonder, really, to look at them. There's so much potential, but we're not looking into that because we are too fixated on certain things. What is being defined as more advanced, more is more in an ontological level is more valid in exchanging with others. It's more like a currency to kind of share with the Western world. So I think it's quite messed up in that sense. Yeah.
Since we touched on the topic of culture, identity, and earlier we talked about other regions like Thailand or Indonesia, I actually would like to call upon Sajra A. Pramana from Oma Library. Hi there.
Whoa, I miss Oma.
Hi.
I don't talk to Real Rich today. Yeah.
Yeah, so correct me if I'm wrong, you're in Indonesia right now. Perhaps you want to share a bit of what is the scene over there? How do the local actually react to the culture?
Oh, they are much more advanced.
Yeah.
I mean, really.
Do you mind sharing? Oh, your mic is not right. Oh, can't share. Then you can type off. I'm just joking. Okay. All right. Oh, that's the list set. Okay. Oh yeah. Did you say something?
During our session with Rabun Senja, we were paired with critical context, so from Indonesia. I think they are doing quite interesting stuff as well. They are basically doing workshop. So it's workshop, but based on they study about this traditional techniques from different regions from Indonesia. I think the workshop, so I think the workshop is basically based on that. So you study a certain weaving technique or whatever, and then you turn it into like something else, a product and stuff. And and you use that as a, so try to check out I think they've done like a couple of workshops. So I think during that session we were talking about, we want to do this one, and their presentation like, okay, we've done this, so so but it's
They
good.
are so advanced. Why?
Yeah, they're advanced and okay, yeah, I think because of course they are bigger and more people as well, so you have very interesting design in one part of them who are somehow trying to be more explorative in forms and stuff. You have designers and architects who does that as well, and you have those who really look into these traditional techniques, and of course because if you talk about, let's say we have Langkah Suka, you have Johor Riau culture, you have Borneo, but over there you have like even like 100 times more. So you should celebrate that as part of that, and let's say the fact that, let's say when Andra Martin did an exhibition in Venice Biennale, so
the elevation.
The elevation exhibition is really talking about that, and so subtly it's no longer about trying to do so-called modern rustic architecture, rugged aesthetic of concrete anymore. So we can when we go over there, you don't show exposed concrete or brick over there. You should show something that they would be interested in looking at what you are good at. If you study, let's say one other thing that the speculation about, let's say, our culture, because we are not somehow we don't really build a lot using stone. Except for, let's say, all those monuments, Candi Borobudur, Lembah Bujang, and everything in Bali as well. But the locals, I mean, even most of the Istanas as well, the palaces are also built in timber. So in a way that you build in timber so that it won't last forever, so that you need to always change it and always innovatively. So you and somehow you celebrate in terms of giving more jobs to people and stuff like that. So I think it's sustainable in the sense that you don't really need to build something that really big as a monument. And I think the way that we build is actually, I would say, like the right way. Of course, it won't last forever, but it's you give more job to people, you get craftsmen and stuff. But the way that we build nowadays, it's not really that way anymore. So probably that is something that we can lead actually from this region, for other people to learn. And it's very funny enough that, say, I attended one talk by MBRDV, like last year or something in KL. And then they have like this project that they want to create like this new village or kampung where everyone, live sustainably and blah, blah, blah. This is like the architecture of like kampung somewhere in Malaysia or in Sarawak or in Indonesia. It's like nothing, it's talking about. But like over there, so it's like this new thing, okay, we just, you don't need to build anything. So everyone build themselves, they share resources and blah, blah, blah. That is the life of the kampung. So, and, Remco is talking about moving to the countryside and blah, blah, blah. Like actually that is somehow something that is really embedded in the way that we live over here. And we somehow create competition to build more reclaimed islands and stuff like that, and we want to build more GFA, whereas the GFA in the KL City Centre is also becoming empty. We are getting like hollow core already. So I agree with Wendy what I said. So the way that we talk about is very developer centric, and to gain more speculative profit without really talking about how we can develop even in terms of quality of craftsmanship, understanding of spatial quality and stuff like that, our own heritage.
Speaking of MDRVV, my readers talk about a bit of the Penang big proposal about the greenwashing.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts?
I mean, like you can name it like, previously we have greenwashing. We talk about grey washing, the critique of that OMA project as well. Trying to use the aesthetic of the social housing of the, concrete rugged aesthetic as something that is the privileged version of it. So you can name or rebrand however that you like, but in the end of the day, if we don't really try to fix the system by creating an alternative, even in a smaller version that we could. Of course, let's say for instance, I think some of the other interesting part that we learned from learn from Indonesia is that the idea of a co-housing, that you don't really need big developers, but you can actually buy like a piece of land for 10 or 20 people and start to develop your own thing, share your resources and stuff like that, and do your own project and stuff like that. So but of course there are challenges as well in order to do that. But we need to start to do that collectively, even though we don't have the same, the same aesthetic regime or whatever. We don't have the same understanding in certain things, but we know that this is our time and we need to do that change. We don't hope for anyone to change for us or whatever. We can ask for grants and whatnot. That's our right for us to do that, but we have to collectively do that. So if someone believes that, by joining like a certain collective that you can change, you do it. If you think that this kind of platform can connect us even better, that I can know more about some of the interesting things that we've done, then we do that. I mean, like, yeah, that's the way to go.
And I think another thing is like, maybe if I can add on that, like just adding another more about Indonesia, is like, because we are talking about the bottom up like initiative these days, like a lot. But I think like Indonesia, like effort in setting out like, some very innovative, some very like in like the way that they're approaching like the top down policy, like we should really look at some of their city, like for example Surabaya. Yeah. And I think the Surabaya with Satya, maybe you can also add some information or some link that like can help to shed the light as well. But it's just like the fact that like the way of planning, and also how do they make things so different. Yeah. And also how could we our city learn from it as well. So I think learn from each other. It's like, because at the end of the day, it's not about like competition. In a way, is never really going to be like, I think it's so naive, like people split things like, oh yeah, this part is Sarawak, this part is Sabah, this part is like Kalimantan, and that part is Brunei. At the end of the day, it's belong to the same cultural entity. And what are you talking about, like by setting a line? And at the end of the day, these lines, they are just political line. It doesn't mean a thing. Yeah, and we should really kind of like inspire by one another. The same thing with the Langkasuka culture. It's not about setting out like who get the best Langkasuka, craft. It is more about like, how could we really step out from there and also like do something interesting. Yeah, so I think like is a lot of things being taken in a very like naive or even like laughable direction, which is something that I kind of like things that we should really change, not simply on the bottom out like initiative level, but also on the level of like the policymaker, education, and even the how the fund like kind of peer to work. Yeah, it shouldn't be like just as a centralized about like certain agenda. It should be like more, because seeing this thing dying out is really heartbroken. I don't know how you guys feel about this. Because it's like you don't know what you don't know, and at one point someone will grow out not knowing like about the terms. How many of you hear about the terms of Langkasuka? Just tell the truth. How many of you really?
Okay, I honestly,
challenge you.
as a moderator, I don't know.
Here you go. Someone said that it's their first time.
Really, first time? I thought they were taught in history though.
Yeah.
I mean, unless
not in history.
Your generation.
Sejarah, God.
Yeah.
I can't ring a bell. Why?
I can't recall actually. Yeah. I think it's a very small section of it. Like
it's a very small section.
Yeah, it's like the lot of fun facts. It's not like we have to study. It's like fun facts, which is
like
bad.
a chapter of it.
Yeah.
I mean that's also another thing. If you go to
no, imagine like the syllabus was interesting. Like you have like few chapters talking about Islamic religions.
Yeah, I was making a point just now. If let's say you go to Negara, you learn history of the country through a very well curated version of the history that they want you to know and understand, and that's it. You don't want to know. You want people to question more than that. Even the modern history one, not to say the ancient one. So because of that, we have a very fragmented understanding of it. So if let's say we talk about even Malacca itself, even certain terminology. Why is a city is called a kota? Kota is also like fort, right? Why it is called a kota? If you let's say the way that we build now, we don't have any like say all this fort around Malacca or around Kota Baru. Of course, Kota Baru is if you see the istana itself, they still have that, and it's all this Kota Baru, Kota Tinggi, whatever kota. It's because of that. And when you talk about Pekan, Pekan is also another thing also of bandar. Bandar is also Pekan. I go to Pekan. And if you see Kedai also, Kedai is also something to see that the commercial activity is concentrated over there. And of course, for someone who studied, let's say, Malay town, right? So you don't have Malay towns before, let's say, the British came or people from China or South India come to this peninsula. Of course you have that, you have pasar, the idea of collectively, so but we don't learn this as certain things that you need to learn in history, one thing, and in architectural history as another point. So you can't really relate that, history or Melaka, okay, Kesultanan Melaka, that's it, the name of the sultan, blah blah, but you don't understand the setting, you don't understand, let's say, how it was like back then, whether you really have, when they say that Melaka is this town that Portuguese would come for, but you can't imagine. But if let's say you say like a Roman city, or you can understand because you can see the ruins of the city. But for us, you can't really see that. You can only see the A Famosa part of it, which is not built by. So there's a lot of I think more research need to be done, and I think if we can start to do that, then we can dig up more interesting. I mean, just to share, like even some of the discussion with our colleague from our friends from Indonesia is also the same. Basically, for now, it's basically for you to really dig up your own history and try to understand who you are. And from there you start to understand how you should live. So basically you start a new model. So of course they also have debate whether they really need to move the city center from Jakarta to Borneo. They really need to do that. And by doing that, are you doing more good compared to bad, or you are damaging more forests and stuff like that? So there's a lot of this kind of discussion, I think. But I think now with the internet and Zoom and whatever, we have more discussion. But I think at the same time, without properly educating people, you are also creating more rubbish as well. You just look at any comment section anywhere on the internet, it's rubbish. Like you criticize people for not in a critical way. You criticize just for the sake of making them look bad. So I think that is not a very constructive way of a nation or people for this region for us to move forward, right? So yeah, I think that's basically something that we can look into as well.
And I totally agree with that. Like, if I can add on something.
Yeah, sure.
Because it's like what you said about, like you have to understanding your own culture more. Because it's like sometimes we just assume, like by looking at the sejarah, by looking at the textbook that we have, we already know the default. But what if the default that is not even the default? So I would really recommend like everyone to look at, like, there's a book called Imagine Community, and it was a book that like widely cited in the anthropologists, archaeologists, and also the social science sector, the disciplines. So this book actually bring out like the context of Indonesian as well. So Satria is also relevant to you guys. It's very relevant to Malaysia, because it's actually speak about like what kind of tools to create the community.
Is it by Benedict Anderson?
Yes, exactly. Yeah. If you guys need the PDF, or if you guys are interested in digging more, having this kind of conversation, like join our next reading club. Like it will be happening next year. Sorry, shameless promotion again.
You're having next year or next weekend?
Every year. Next year.
Okay. Because next Saturday got non-school public lecture. I'm just joking. Yeah. Okay. Sorry.
Yeah. So that is also one book that like I think will shed the light upon you know what are the tools like people use to kind of set out government and to set out like community to bring alignment. Yeah, so some nation never happened like for example the notion of Chinese never happened like more than 100 years ago. Like how could the Mandarin like the Manchurian people be the same like ethnic group of the southern people? It's never really been the case in the history. And then it was all invented like within 100 years. And the same thing like with our landscape as well. We should really review all the facts and what does it really benefit us. How and I think we have to be very pragmatic in that sense. Like what is it really going to bring good? Like in terms of the way the approach of thinking that we embracing right now, nationalism or globalism. So I think that is like will bring out the bigger question of like how should we really set out our political agenda, because if like I say to Joyee the other day, like most of the issue that we have is actually local issue, global issue pretending to be the local issue, and I said that in the reading club as well. Yeah. So
Perhaps you want to give an example of how the global issue people think it as a local issue.
Like for example, the global ecological issue that we have, and then now like people are looking at the refugee as a political issue, but in fact it's not. It's not a national issue. Like there is a lot of like in the past we have refugee coming from because of the political situation, but nowadays we have a lot of like refugee came from the climate like disaster. So it's going to be more and more. And the moment like the fact that we're kind of pushing away the Rohingya, and I think people done some hideous like comments over the social media. But you know, my point of view, my stand for that is actually like that could be us, you know. And the way that we decided to treat others is in fact like hinting how we give the allowance to people how we want to be treated. And if we're not operating in that manner, then you know what? Malaysia will be even more isolated as a country, as a region. Because it's always like the narrative is always being manipulated and politically in the benefit of others. And we never thought about like how we should kind of embrace one another and also really think in other people's shoes, or let other people to allowing other people to think in our shoes. Because we don't have enough platform like that, don't have enough like case study or story like that. So I think we need to create more, and it shouldn't done in a small scale. I think it has to be like engaging enough, like in a wider community. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much for the sharing. I think today's discussion is very interesting. I hope you all are inspired as much as we want to continue the discourse. I think we have overshoot the time. Does anyone need to add on any question? Last comment before we can end this session? Anyone from the ground? Okay.
When is the next session?
Good question. So the next session will be announced when it's ready. Yeah, so and thanks for bringing it up. I think also a good time for me to announce as well. So today marked the 15th session for Concrete Matter, which is the end of the 3rd season. So I think it's a good closure in a sense that Concrete Matter is not shutting down its page, but it's more like taking a break and also restructuring and see what are the other kinds of knowledge sharing platform. So in the past, the sharing has always been speaking and interacting with the speakers. So I think evolving and changing is part of the progress. So perhaps Concrete Matter is thinking to change to another form of sharing. So I hope you guys miss this sharing session. Okay. Yeah. So thank you for Wendy for sharing
Thank you for inviting.
Borneo Art Collective and Borneo Lab. And thank you non-school, Ashran, Hazazi, and Bryan for the inspiring session. So we come to an end to today's sharing. Yeah. So thank you for your support since from the beginning. We would like to call everyone turn on their camera, and then we have this annual Zoom feed, and then and then we'll call it a night. All right. So smile. 1, 2, 3. Nice. Okay. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Bye.
Oh, so sorry. I forgot to press my screenshot. My God. Come again, guys. Can this screenshot again? 3, 2, 1. Smile. Okay. I captured this time. Okay. Bye. Good night, everyone.
Bye.
See you.
Bye.
Bye.